And we're live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending my virtual executive lead member for Children's Services Decision Day. This Decision Day is being webcast on YouTube via the County Council website. We haven't received any deputations for today, so we'll go straight into the first item on the agenda, which is approval to spend for 2022 to 2025, the Holiday Activity and Food Programme, and Suzanne, you're presenting this one.
Thank you, Councillor Chad. So as discussed at your briefing, we had confirmation as part of the autumn budget announcements that there was 3 years of funding to be made available through the Department for Education to extend the Holiday Activity and Food Scheme from 2022 to 2025. In accordance with the County Council's scheme of delegation and constitution, we need to seek approval to spend that money. And so this paper sets out the fact that we will be going out to procure an open framework. That means that providers willing to deliver HAF schemes can apply over that duration to be part of our contracted arrangements, and seeks approval to spend up to £10.3 million over that 3-year period on the services relating to HAF. The total value of the contract will be up to 11.6 million. That reflects the fact that both Hampshire and Isle of Wight councils will use the procurement vehicle that we put in place, but the approval to spend is for Hampshire funding only at 10.3 million. So seeking your approval to the recommendations set out in paragraph 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. It is so nice to be able to do this actually in a time where we are making savings elsewhere, but to be able to deliver this type of programme is really nice and really needed by those families that do make use of it. I haven't actually got anything more to add to this paper, and if I just take everyone to the recommendations in number 3, double check that no one has anything they want to add. Does anyone have anything they want to add before I go to the recommendations? Okay, so paragraph 3, happy to support the and give approval to spend the 10.3 million on the Holiday Activities and Food Programme for the total period of 2022 to 2025. Thank you, everybody, for that one. Before I go on to the next item, I've just had apologies from Kirsty. Can we note her apologies, please, for Councillor North for the meeting?
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Adam. So, item 2 on the agenda is the Holiday Activity and Food Grant recommendations for Easter 2022, and Tracy Messer is going to deliver this report.
Thank you, Councillor Chad. I'm really pleased to be able to bring the paper to you today, which seeks the approval for the Easter 22 for a total award of £512,117 and 9 pence, in fact, to support 133 projects for the Easter delivery. This will be the first amount of money from the new money that Suzanne has just reported on. And in terms of the timings of things, this has had to come through the process that we set up last year to actually have a grant award. So whilst it's our new money, it's in our old process. And I'm really pleased to bring to you such a full programme for Easter. We've been well subscribed to for both our projects for the childcare places, and B, our more family events and older age range. And we've got a span of that programme going across all parts of the County Council, which I'm really pleased for this Easter delivery. Every child that attends will be able to have up to 4 days of free support, which will obviously, as you know, include a hot meal, which is very important. So I would like to make recommendation to you that you give some consideration to be able to confirm that funding can be spent on the projects outlined in Appendix 1, paragraphs 2, 3 and 4, and provide the recommendation to you.
myself off mute, apologies. Thank you, Tracy. Again, it's absolutely wonderful to be able to provide these places, and just seeing how varied and how well covered geographically Hampshire is this time in resources for these young people. It's absolutely amazing, and I would recommend any member to speak to us and see if they can visit any of these provisions over the Easter holidays, because it is really worthwhile to see those young people enjoying their time at these providers. It's brilliant. Councillor Porter, have you wanted to add?
Just want to say thank you to the staff team who do amazingly at getting this out so quickly, but also to all the volunteers that are involved in this, because it not only provides those places, but also childcare places for other people. And I think that's not to be underestimated, but particular thanks to the team at Hampshire and the volunteers. That's really brilliant, and we really appreciate it. Really appreciate your effort. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Porter. Does anyone else have anything that they wish to say in regards to these? Well, thank you so much, Tracy. And as Councillor Porter said, thank you to the whole team for getting this out in such a short space of time, really, and talking to the providers. If I take everyone to the recommendations, if I take them on bulk, which is recommendation 2, 3 and 4, I'm happy to approve each of those recommendations.
Thank you. I'll take that feedback back to the team as well. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tracy. The next item on the agenda is additional specialist provision for Hampshire. And have we got...
It's myself, Councillor Chad. Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Chad. So as you will be aware, we've had a large increase in the number of EHCPs and therefore a large increase in the requests for specialist SEN places. This report provides us with an additional 55 places. There are 3 proposals in there. One is around Henry Tyndale Special School to provide a satellite provision at Park Children's Centre. That would provide us with 35 extra places from September 2023 at a cost of about 1.1 million we've got set aside in the capital programme for that. The second scheme is at Norman Gate Special School, so it's an expansion there of which would give us an additional 12 places. And we've got 160,000 in the capital programme set aside for that. And then finally at Pinewood Infant School, the setting up of a resource provision for 8 extra places, and we've set aside 200,000 in the capital programme to do the works for that. The Henry Tyndale proposal is for September 23. The other 2 are for September 22. So, as I say, much needed places. The proposal is to go out to consultation formally now. So it would go out as a public notice on Friday. That would be for a 6-week period, because we will hit against the Easter holidays and we didn't want to publicly consult during a holiday period. So we've extended that from 4 to 6 weeks. And a final report will come back to your decision day in June.
Thank you, Brian. Couldn't agree more with you that these are much needed places, and it amazes me, and I'm so proud of how our schools have rallied together. The team have worked hard with our schools to find these additional places for our young people, and I think it's just wonderful that how our mainstream schools are supporting out that SEN provision across Hampshire. It's real teamwork, isn't it, in that respect. I've looked at the feedback from some of the consultation, and I just want to make sure that at each step of the process of the next step, that we do keep the local members informed as much as possible with these. Because I do note there are some mentions of parking concerns and transport concerns as well. So if we can just make sure that the local members are kept informed as much as every step of the way, really, so we can.
Absolutely, Councillor Chaz, you're right to raise that, and We think we've got mitigation strategies for the concerns that have been raised during the informal consultation, hence our recommendation to move to the formal consultation stage. But throughout the next stages, we'll keep local members updated as you request.
Brilliant, thank you. Nothing for me. Councillor Hare, have you've got something you'd like to?
Thank you. Actually, Councillor Chad, you've just highlighted what I was going to say. One is just a comment. These are much needed places which are very welcome. And throughout the report, there were some concerns and questions, and they have all been addressed, which is very good. That's what I wanted to say, really. Thank you.
Thank you. I think what I did take from the consultation was actually the amount of support that there are for these additional places as well from the public, which is really, really positive and really good to see, and from from other members as well. But that leads me nicely to the next lot of recommendations, and I'll take these on. It's just the one, isn't it? So yeah, happy to approve that we go to statutory public notices to be published for the expansion of Henry Tyndale and Norman Gate School and the resource provision at Pinewood Infant School. But please pass on all of our thanks to the team that are involved with this, Brian, because I know trying to find those places is very challenging, and just pass on our thanks to the schools that are involved as well for being part of that wider team as well. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the determination of the post-16 transport policy statement. And do we have Martin?
Yes, Councillor Chad, I'm here for this. Thank you very much. This is our annual conversation around post-16 transport policy, which is the document that sits around a service that's part of the homeschool transport service and supports over 300 young people every year on their journeys to school sixth forms and colleges all around Hampshire and some beyond Hampshire. We proposed very few changes to the existing post-16 transport policy statement, and the one works in favour of students in reducing the walk to a possible pickup, and another one is around just applying an inflationary rise to our post-16 annual charge. And then the first of them is just to better explain some of the information that is used by parents when they read the policy. So we're just recommending this policy statement for your approval this year.
Thank you, Martin. I don't have any further questions other than those that I asked in the briefing. Does anyone else have any comments or no? Okay, so if we go straight to the recommendations on this one. I'm happy to approve the post-16 transport statement, and which incorporates all the elements of the previous year's policy. So thank you, Martin, for all your work on this one. Thank you very much. That brings us to the last item on the agenda, which is the future of Hatherden Church of England aided primary school. And Brian, you're going to.
Again, thank you, Councillor Chad. It's clearly a difficult decision to recommend to you, and clearly a difficult decision for you to take. Hatherden Church of England Primary School is a very tiny school, unusually so in Hampshire and in national terms. It's currently judged inadequate by Ofsted. And obviously what we are trying to do is to ensure that it becomes a good school again. The features of a good school usually are that you have sufficient staff to have a really high quality dialogue about issues like the curriculum and quality of teaching. And I have to say that's incredibly difficult when you've got such a small staff team, particularly with the Ofsted framework, which is now based around sequencing of the curriculum in all the different subjects. There are 11 subjects that children have to be taught, and Ofsted expect to see those all sequenced correctly, and for a subject manager within the school to be able to articulate how they are improving their particular subject area. That's really challenging when you've only got 2 or 3 teachers within a school. Similarly, they expect leadership around SEN, safeguarding, assessment, all of which is challenging in such a tiny school. The Ofsted framework is such that it can't be judged good unless it can improve and sustain its good rating on its own without external support. That's a key Ofsted criteria they look to when they are deciding whether to determine whether a school is going to be good or not. And you'll understand why that would be so challenging in such a small school with such a small staff. And I pay tribute actually to the way that staff have tackled this over the last issue. They've worked really hard over the last period of time with lots of support from Hampshire. So we currently have an academy order in place. That happens as soon as a school is judged inadequate. The Regional Schools Commissioner is supposed to be able to try and find a multi-academy trust to take on the school. They tried right at the start of the process when the school was judged inadequate. Whilst we were doing the consultation, we had members of the public querying whether they'd undertaken sufficient exploration of all the multi-academy trusts out there. So they went round that one more time and asked all the multi-academy trusts operating in the area whether they would be willing to take the school on. The feedback is exactly that we've got from the RSC is exactly along the feedback that I've given you, that multi-academy trusts were worried about the size of it and the lack of future sustainability and therefore didn't want to take it on. One of the other options that came up during the consultation was the possibility of federating with another school. We put that option to the Regional Schools Commissioner, but they have said that that is not an option that they would support, and therefore the DAO would stay, the direction of academy order would remain in place, because you wouldn't be closing the school in a federation situation, and therefore that's not an option we can pursue either. So unfortunately, the bottom line after you've explored all those options is I actually can't see another option other than to recommend to you that we go to public formal consultation by the issue of a public notice now for the closure of Atherton Church of England Primary, with the same timeline that I've just spoke about for the resource provisions. Public notice going out on Friday. It would be a 6-week public notice to take into account the 2 weeks of the Easter holiday, so we give 4 full weeks during term time, and then again the final decision would then be taken at your decision day in June that I know Democratic Services are organising.
Thank you, Ian. And thank you for all your work with this, both with the school, the Regional School Commissioner, diocese and the community and the team that have done so much with this. This isn't a decision that's taken lightly by myself or the County Council in regards to this. And having visited the school, I was just completely amazed by the staff there, the 2 teaching staff that I was able to visit, the chair of governors that I spoke to, and the small amount of pupils that are in the school that I was able to speak to. And I think they've done an amazing job for those young people and those students, just every step of the way with this. They really have. Having read the report and having also visited the school, it is that educational element for the children that concerns me, and the concern I have about those 11 positions that we should have a person of responsibility for in those schools, and that's a huge task to ask any member of staff to undertake, having to be several of these have several of these hats on at any one time. I'm aware that we do have support from the diocese to look at going to the public notice, and also from the Regional School Commissioner as well. thank you, for asking those questions about federation as well, and I think that it was important that we did ask those questions and we tried that all avenues were explored before we came to this report today. This, at the end of for me, at the end of the day, what's important is the educational sustainability for those children that are at that school. Having 2 classes in a school doesn't feel right and doesn't feel like it's the best for those children for the future as well. So with that, I'm personally, I am in agreement with the recommendation that we go to a public notice. What I know, there has been lots of questions, especially from local members, about if after that public notice and public consultation, that the formal consultation, there is a decision eventually to close the school. The question has been raised about what happens with the building, and I just want to make sure that, one, that I've acknowledged that today for those local members, but also that we will keep, if the decision eventually is to close the school, that they are part of that process going forward. This really isn't a decision that I've taken lightly. I've seen the wonderful things that all the staff do at Hatherton. I really have, and how they are doing their absolute best for those children in the situation that they find themselves in. But with such a small school, unfortunately, budgets are reliant on the amount of children that you have in the school. So there will always be those budget issues going forward for the school too. I'm happy to ask to see if anyone has any other comments that they wish to make, and then I'll close with the recommendations on this. Councillor Porter, you're on mute, sorry.
I get the hang of it after 2 years. I know it's a very difficult decision for you to make, and as I said earlier in the week in Cabinet, I had hoped this would be a Cabinet process. But I understand that this is the consultation. I understand that all avenues, as far as we can see, the County Council has investigated, and it's not healthy for children to be in such a small school. I don't think long term, if it remained at this size. I do appreciate it's a decision that's got to be made, and the consultation is the stage that we have to go through, and it's important to hear the responses of that consultation genuinely when they come in. I think that's the important thing for us to see, and certainly in the opposition we will be looking at those responses as well, or we would like to look at them so that we genuinely know if this is all other avenues are being explored.
Thank you, Councillor Porter. Councillor Hare.
Thank you, Councillor Chad. These decisions, closing a school is a tough decision, and these decisions aren't made lightly. The consultation that we're moving forward to is the right decision. Mine is not a question, it's just a comment. And I feel quite assured that the children will be offered other places and the teachers will have jobs. That was my concern. And, you know, it's one of those things that sometimes these hard decisions are made with difficulty. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hare. Okay, if I can take everyone to the recommendations, please. So the recommendation is that the publication of a public notice will be approved to close Hatherden Church of England aided primary school with effect from the 31st of August 2022. I'm happy to approve that recommendation. And if I can just have the final ask that we do keep the local member fully informed.
Happy to give that assurance, Councillor Chad.
Okay, thank you everybody, and thank you all for attending my decision day today, and please can I ask for the webcast to be stopped?
I'll confirm as soon as that's done.